Alright, good morning everybody. Good morning. Assalamu alaikum. Okay, let's go ahead and get started with our daily message. Thank you for your patience and kindness. The shortened time period. I feel like I haven't had a lot of time to come on here and speak to you guys on the weekend and such. As you can see, I've been getting some sun, if you can tell. It was a little sunburnt yesterday, but it's a little bit better now. Alright, let's go ahead and get into a daily message from the Qur'an. See what the Qur'an and the good word has to say. Alright, let's begin. In the name of Allah, most gracious, most merciful. Of course, we open randomly, right? And it's funny, I don't know if I made a dent in this crease, this binding crease right here, but it's the same verse that we read last time, which was the baggage of his brother, the story of Joseph in Egypt. So let's go ahead and try again, just for time's sake and to get something different here. In the name of Allah, most gracious, most merciful. That's kind of rare that I get the same verse twice. Very interesting. So I guess if you haven't heard that message, definitely go back and watch. Alright. This is from Surah 20, line 128. Alright. Surah 20, line 128. I don't know if you hear the baby over here. Alright, it reads, "It is not a warning to such men to call to mind how many generations before them we destroyed, in whose haunts they now move?" Verily, in this are signs for men endued with understanding. Alright, heavy topic here, but it is also fitting because this is what we are discussing in the Old Testament, looking into 2 Samuel. We are discussing war, and we are discussing the sword. Is it not a warning to such men to call to mind how many generations before them we destroyed? Where did my thing go? And I was typing, and then you know how sometimes it disappears on me? Expand comments, post details. There we go. We destroyed in whose haunts they now move? Verily, in this are signs for men endued with understanding. Okay, so with this, I will go ahead and preface this with a movie we watched yesterday. It took place sometime back, I guess in the 90s, and there were 3 Vietnam veterans bearing one of their sons, who was in the Iraq military. I want to say it was in the U.S. military, but U.S. military fighting in Baghdad. So it was around that time frame. I'm sure many of us can remember if you are American and you were alive during that time. So anyways, there was one character, an ex-Vietnam, he was a Marine Corps soldier, and he was with his other ex-Marine Corps soldier who was a priest, and the other character was not such a believer. He definitely had some questions for God, and part of those questions were, where was God during these wars, right? Where was God during genocide? Where was God during the mass upsets of the world, right? God has always been there. And it's saying here, is it not a warning to such men to call to mind how many generations before them we destroyed? So it's really a call to action to remember the Lord, not always in terror and in fear, but to remember him in light and happiness. But how hard is that? How difficult is that when we have these upsets, when we have unrest and no peace and killing and murder and war and all of that nasty stuff is very difficult. And I think that strays a lot of people from religion or from God in general. A lot of people lose faith in God due to sickness, due to some kind of upset. But really, it's saying here, this is a warning to such men. So if anything, instead of going on the angry side, up the upset side, to blame God, we are to look inside ourselves, and we are to go closer to him or draw nearer to him. It's a challenging thing. I know it's not something that's easy. I know that, we can really be overcome with grief and sadness during times of unrest. But how overcome with grief and sadness do we think King David was? Of course he was a great king, and of course he had a lot of pleasures in life, and he had a lot of gifts in life, but he also went through a lot of trying times, I would say, in his early life as well as his adult years and his reigning years. And it's not going to stop, right? It's going to keep going. We're going to learn about what happens with Absalom, his son, and how, they drift apart. So remembering King David and how he does go through all of this stuff, and how there will be characters in the Bible that go through all this stuff, but that doesn't pull them away from God, it draws them closer to God. So we are looking at their example, and we are trying to follow that example instead of going on the other side. Yes. So let's see, I'm just looking here. It's a place frequented by a specific person or group of people. Okay, so it's interesting they use this word hunt, right? I guess not, it could be in the way that we know the word hunt. It says, how many generations before them we destroyed, in whose hunts they now move. So hunt is defined as a place frequented by a specific person or group of people, or of a ghost a ghost manifests itself at a place regularly. So where, in whose hunts, right, in whose localization, in whose areas do they now move? These generations they have destroyed. So it's a rhetorical question, but it is also meant to be thought upon, and it is meant to be answered in your own way. So I guess just looking at the times now, right, I'm saying do not get too invested. There's no need to pick a side, right? A lot of people are picking a side. There's no need to do so, right? There's times of war, there's times of upset, there's times of poverty, just like every generation, every era, right? They have their own fears. We have our own enemies, But it is a warning, right? It's a warning. And if you're good and you're living and you're blessed to be here and, not in times of turmoil, be extremely grateful. So, it doesn't, something in that movie yesterday was, it doesn't cease, right? There's always going to be a new enemy. There's always going to be a new battle. But can we wait to see the days where there will be peace, right, between everybody? I think we can hold on to that hope, and I think we can hold on to that faith where there can just be an overall understanding between everybody, and, there's not so much turmoil going on. Yeah. Okay, well, that's all I have to say about this. Let's see if I can get a title going here. All right, and let's begin. We'll talk about 2 Samuel. We'll see what happens with Absalom and King David and the Israelites. Let's go ahead and find out. I'll catch you guys in just a second.